Hello, Medium Mindfulness listeners. My name is Karyn Reece, and I'm known as the Psychic Medium to the Stars. I'm here today with my co-host, Alexa Zappia, who is the founder and director of the brand Rocks of Unity. I often get asked by clients or even those in the media, how would I like to live to get the most out of life? To me, I would like to change the societal connotation of what it means to be normal. You see, I've been grappling with this my entire life, and well, frankly, I don't think I'm alone, especially with this podcast. I want listeners to feel inspired, invigorated, and empowered that there is no normal. Life obviously takes us not where we want to be, but where we need to be. Although I've been running my own business for 15 years, I too started out like most people. I started working for different companies until life pushed me to pursue my mediumship as a full-time business. To me, it's all about timing. For instance, my entire life I've been surrounded by spirits, seen dead people, making predictions. And it's funny how spirit world, they'll tell you where you need to be or they'll guide you. I used to be a stockbroker, one of the youngest stockbrokers here in upstate New York, until the universe literally pushed me out. It's such a funny thing when I think back on that. But psychically, I was told to quit my job and that my business would grow like a snowball. And, most people would probably shun that, but I decided to take a leap of faith to start my own practice. And hence, going forward, the rest is history. I've had a great success and I've met many wonderful people.
So when you first took that leap of faith, did it make you nervous that you were making a mistake? Because I think that's a lot of the struggle and that people get, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I'm leaving my comfort zone. So did you get that, or were you confident in your decision that yes, this is where I'm supposed to be?
Well, I got to tell you, every time I say, yes, I should do this, or no, I shouldn't do that, the universe always ends up pushing me where I need to be. So I didn't really have a choice. So I did take a leap of faith and I said, I got to put my confidence into the spirit world, to the psychic end of things, tell me where I needed to go. Because one way or the other side would push me. I didn't have a choice and they would haunt me. So I did have a couple spirit guides saying, you need to go into this direction. But I always knew that I wanted my own business. It's one of the reasons why I always took on straight commission jobs. From that perspective. And I always wanted to remain independent, and I still do.
You still are very
yes.
independent. You know what you want, and that's what I love about you. You know what you want, and you're just a go-getter.
Well, there's so much truth to that because a lot of people along my path would tell me not to do things. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that many people share. People try to talk people out of it. I just ignore people. I try to ignore the spirit world, but they won't let me. Liquid or real spirits.
Right. I love it.
Champagne.
Wine, please.
I wine enough. Get some cheese with that.
So when, you had negativity or people doubted you, obviously you're a very strong personality that you're no, but really, were you hurt or were you really just, I'm going to prove you wrong type of thing?
It's funny because throughout my life, I was always told I couldn't do something that made me want to do it all the more. It's kind of like trick psychology. And being the youngest female stockbrokers in upstate New York, I remember people within my own family say, no, you can't do it. And that required cold calling and doing things that, you're out of your normal. So, I've always gone ahead and done the things that I feel is right intuitively, despite what others have to say. And if you really think about it, there's a ton of people out there that would try to, dissuade you from doing it.
Yeah.
I just didn't pay attention.
No, that's good because you can't pay attention to negativity, I don't think. Because
No.
it will get you nowhere.
Well, and sometimes you'll learn whether, it's something that turns out where it's not exactly what you were hoping for. There's always something to learn. You learn about yourself and you grow. Even if you flunk out, you're not really out of the game till you stop, being in the game. So there's always something to learn.
Well, I don't think that, people say, oh, it's a foul at life or it's a foul at this. Honestly, I don't really think anything is a foul. I really don't. Maybe it didn't work out the way you wanted it to, but it doesn't mean it didn't work out because it either was a lesson or it led you further along your path. And I just cut out the negativity. And I don't want to think of it as a fail. It's what can I learn from this and how can I move forward?
You are brilliant. Watson is brilliant, just so the listeners know. I nickname Alexa Watson because she's brilliant and beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Speaking of which, you started Rocks of Unity at such an impressive young age when you were only 20 years young.
Yeah.
Can you tell our listeners the importance of timing for your journey?
Yeah, so just the current state of the world. Well, first of all, I was very close with someone who passed away on a plane crash, Flight 3407, and she died when I was 12. So when she died, it was the moment where I was like, I need to live my life more than just my own, and I have to work to carry on her legacy. So she was all about, cross-cultural dialogue, coexistence, and bridging the gap between communities. And so from age 12, I started volunteering. So to kind of grieve, but also to go into communities like she, said and always did. So since then, I got, 3,000 hours of volunteer work, and it was like, it was really what I needed and how I chose to grieve and, get over and really understand what happened. So fast forward to my junior year in college, I was teaching, and I was teaching in a 4th grade classroom, and I had a teaching placement there, and so I was there all semester. And I just saw that there was so much hate in the way kids treated each other. And I wanted to kind of do something that would end that hate, or at least kind of, make it so it didn't seem as prevalent within the classroom. And so I made a lesson plan, and I'll just name it as is. It was done in the shower, like shower thoughts are the best thoughts. And so I made it in the shower, and it was supposed to be just a lesson plan that I taught just at that one school to really bridge the gap between the differences within our classroom. And so the premise of this is now turned into Rocks of Unity. And so it uses educational workshops and advocacy to end hate by spreading kindness through the decoration of rocks, by highlighting who you are instead of hiding who you are. So it grew bigger than I ever expected. This January, I'll be going into my 3rd year.
Jeez, it went by fast.
It went by so fast, right? And it's now in 25 different countries and over 35 different states. I now get to travel around the country and speak and do speaking engagements, and I have a lot of celebrity endorsements, which is awesome. But all of this, despite all like the glamorous things that people think about this, it's really, I think, what the world needed right now. And I think as much as the world needed it, I needed it.
Well, I'll tell you, the world definitely needs that. It needs more of that for sure.
Thank you.
But tell me, what about the naysayers? Was it always smooth
Yeah.
sailing? And how did you handle, if you did have any naysayers, how did you handle them?
Yeah, so actually the first person I went to about this, I was like, I have this idea. I did it at one school. Like, I want to do it. She said to me, don't do it. It will be, the concept of it is too dividing, and diversity. It's just, maybe it will happen, but not right now. And so, like you, this is why we work together. Like you.
Yes, Watson.
Like you, we have very similar personalities where the minute you tell me no is the minute that I have to do it. For some things in life, not all things. If my mom says that to me, it's like, okay, I'm doing it. But no, but like for something like this, when I saw the belief in myself, and I finally believed in myself as much as other people saw that it had, this movement had, is when I decided to just go for it. So, although I'm the person that you see in media interviews and on TV and writing the posts, I get backed by such an amazing community, and that's what needs to be focused on, not as much me.
Can you imagine, had you listened to the
Right.
one naysayer,
Right.
the amount of happiness and the great amount of love and support, all the great things that your business has done would never have been out there. If you had listened to her, you wouldn't have affected people the way you have in such positive ways. I mean, you
Thank you.
transform people's lives. I've seen you do it. I watch you do it. I've seen you do it for a long time. And you're a world-class leader.
Oh, thank
So
you.
it just goes to show you, and it proves you can't listen to what everybody thinks. You got to do what's truly right for you. Go with that intuition and go and work with it the way
Yeah.
you need to work with it. That's very important.
Thank you. And it also led to a career change for me as well. And so, like I said, as much as the world needed it, apparently I needed it, because I needed to see that there's so much more to the education world than just classroom teaching. And so that's what I'm doing now. And obviously working for you, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's shown me like the PR side of life and how I need to advocate for what I believe in. So granted, yes, I'm doing PR for you and things like that, but I think PR is such a bigger branch and such a bigger life lesson, all about advocacy for what you really believe in.
Well, you can continue to teach even though you're not doing it in the traditional sense of the word. And what you impart is very, very important.
Thank
and
you.
wonderful, because I
Thank
get so
you.
many great feedbacks from
Oh,
people.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we have a special guest in studio today whose professional and personal journey continues to inspire me. Truly, she has been such an amazing supporter of Rocks of Unity from the start, and couldn't honestly be any nicer and kinder of a human being, honestly. So please welcome former Real Housewife in New Jersey, best-selling author, restaurant owner, and chef, Kathy Walk-Healy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing? Hi, Karen. Hi, Alexis.
We're
How
s-
are you?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Call me whatever you want to call me.
I think you're
No,
being
it's cool.
psychic.
It's cool.
How are you today?
I'm great. I feel great. I just came from yoga. I'm feeling good, and I am happy to be here today.
Good, good. We're happy to
Yeah.
have you with us.
So, Kathy,
Thank
can you
you.
tell us, our listeners, a little bit about your backstory?
So basically, I grew up in New Jersey. I'm born and raised in New Jersey of immigrant parents. I'm a first generation Italian. And I went to high school from a young age. I knew that I was going to do something creative in life and, you know, and working with people. I love people. I love hearing people's stories. I love people. And I love making people happy. It's in my nature. I'm a Libra. And I love beautiful things. So, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I mean, I always loved working with hair and making people look more beautiful and make people happy. That was something that just came easy to me. And then, I toyed with the idea of going into fashion. And I worked with, my father was a shoemaker and my mother was a seamstress. So from the two of them, I got skills of creativity and craftsmanship. Like I knew how to work with my hands and being creative at the same time. So, there was a lot of different avenues that I wanted to go into. And then one day I just said, this is something I've always wanted to be as a hairdresser. So I went to a technical vocational high school. My father urged me to go to college because I was a good student, and I just didn't want to. I didn't want any part of it. I said, Dad, you're going to waste your money because I want to be a hairdresser. Looking back, I could have done both, but it didn't. It served me well, so I have no regrets in that respect, but it could have served me both. It could have served me very well doing both. I could have done both, but I did. I was a hairdresser for so many years, and I loved every minute of it. It was not work to me. The hardest part was standing on my feet, but other than that, it was wonderful. I worked 12-hour days in front of the chair. I was booked. I was booked solid. I worked 5 days a week, sometimes 4 days a week, but I was there. I squeezed people in. I came in early. I loved it, every part of it. And then I got married to my husband. We met on an airplane. We got married, very traditional lifestyle. I became a stay-home mom, and then I started just entertaining a lot. And I was always that girl that when the girls got together, my girlfriend's younger, I was the one that was preparing food and loved being in the kitchen and making sure everybody ate.
That's better than us because we don't cook over here. So
Mouths are watering.
Growing up Italian, it was just like I learned by, like, people ask me all the time, did your mother teach you how to do this? How did you learn? I kind of just learned by osmosis, by being in the kitchen, sitting at the kitchen table doing my homework. Like I knew that, okay, the garlic is ready. It's going to burn soon. Like you could smell it, and go. She would give me simple tasks to watch, and it's kind of, that's how I picked it up and learned. And you learn by tasting. My mother it still is a fantastic cook, baker. She did it all. And so I kind of just learned from her, not really in any kind of formal teaching. And so then I kept entertaining. And then when I was approached to do the Real Housewives, this now we're fast forwarding, I was approached to do, I was at the point where my kids didn't need me as much. They're in high school. And they didn't need me as much, and I was looking to do something else and go to work or something like that and get back into the workforce. And my husband was just like, listen, we take vacations a lot. How are we going to do that? And then I was approached by the Real Housewives, but I had no idea it was the Real Housewives in New Jersey. It was just a talent company or a talent booker and a scout. And they told me that they do Food Network shows and shows on TLC and all these things related to homes and cooking and being like a housewife, but not in the word housewife. And so I was like, okay, sure, I'll get on an interview call. They gave me a call. We talked. They fell in love with our family. And then they really didn't tell me it was Housewives. They just said, we'll let you know what the project is, blah, 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 but you sound great for, what we're looking for. Okay. And then I was intrigued, but I really didn't pursue it. I thought all along, I thought I was getting my own cooking show.
Oh, how fun.
That's so funny.
So
I love
common,
this.
yeah.
Yeah. And then when it came down to it more, we started interviewing a little bit more, then, then I eventually found out what it was for, and I said, "Oh, that's not me. I can't do that. It's not for me." And my husband said to me, "What do you have to lose? Just do it. What's the big deal?" And so I still was making my decision. I don't want to get into all the specifics about it, but I did end up signing as a result of conversations that went on, and it was fine, and it was really great when I had my family scenes. I loved, especially when people started to relate to how our family unit was, and the way I was bringing up my children, and my relationship with my husband, and the desires in the next chapter that I was living through on TV. And then I started getting questions about my recipes, because they asked me, "Well, what are you passionate about? We need to showcase what you're passionate about." And I said, "Well, my family and my home life and my cooking." And so that's what they ended up showing. A lot of scenes in the kitchen, and a lot of scenes of me cooking, to the point where people would ask, "Okay, we know that you like to cook. Do you have any other rooms in your house besides the kitchen?" Because everything was happening in the kitchen, and that's where I was spending most of my time. And then I started getting asked for recipes, one after the other, and it was very hard to keep up with. "We want to know how you made this. I was getting emails, I was getting posts on my social media and all that. And then I was approached by St. Martin's Press, an agent at St. Martin's Press, about, working on a cookbook. And he loved the line that I said about, a lot of times really skinny girls are not that happy because they need to have a cupcake. And so I said, indulge a little bit, have a cupcake. It'll make you happy, And he loved the way that sounded and how it came out. And he says, I know the perfect name for it. And so that's where indulge, came from. And I love sweets from a very young age, and I love making desserts. And so I would make them minis and portion control, so you can indulge without feeling guilty. So that's where my cookbook of indulge mini desserts came from, little simple recipes to keep life sweet. And then from there, I started my cannoli kit. From there, I opened up my restaurant, Pizza Love, because that's another one favorite of mine is pizza.
Oh.
I love pizza, and it's a family restaurant that's doing really, really well here in New Jersey. I have a great team. And I partnered now with Remington College in Memphis.
Beautiful.
And I am a teacher, and I'm teaching, and we've opened up, it's called Kathy Wakili's Real Culinary Kitchen, and it's a program that teaches basic skills to people. It's a nonprofit school that teaches basic skills to people that want to enter into the culinary world, and they don't know the skills, and they don't know which angle of the culinary world they want to enter into. And so we help them. We give them the tools of learning and basic skills to start that career. And there's also an associate's program where we teach management and the front of the house, which means opening up a restaurant or being able to open up your own business, a catering business, stuff like that. And so I find that really fulfilling. And now I've started a podcast myself, and it's called Eat, Live, Love, Indulge. And it's a place where people come together to talk about what makes the best recipe for life. Your friends, your family, good food, indulging, travel, and it's conversations that happen around the table, like what we're doing today.
I love it.
I love it. Kathy, you're just so inspiring. Truly, you're so inspiring.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So,
Thank you.
You have all these accolades and everything that you're talking about, and it really just is amazing. But was there a key moment for you where you felt as though you really needed to pursue something else? Like, you talked about this, but what was the moment that you said, no, I need to pursue cooking. Like, I need to do this. It's where I'm meant to be.
Well, you know what? It's funny because, and I think this is, it's something that we take, like for instance, and I think it's very true for so many people, something that you're really good at and you take for granted. You take it for granted. It's something like for me, what the moment was when I was on TV and people kept asking for recipes and people kept saying, wow, you were a whiz in the kitchen. You're really good at this. And it was something that I took for granted. I did it every day on a daily basis. I would cook for 50 people and entertain and have theme parties. And I just thought it was part of being that was normal. And so, and I would make everything look really pretty. And so the viewers really gave me the inspiration, and they kind of branded me, and I hate to use that word, but they did. They branded me the real cook on the show.
Wow.
Like, because they really related to me in the kitchen, and they wanted to know more. And so they're the one that gave me the inspiration to go on and start putting my recipes down on paper, because I would kind of just wing it all the time.
Interesting. So would you say at that point of your career, that was when you realized you were in the right place, when
Yes.
viewers, yeah, that's huge,
Yes.
Kath. That's significant.
Truly. And there's something about watching you on the show, and even now, that's so authentic.
Yes.
And that right.
Thank you.
And it transfers from the screen or from social to who you are and to us. And, there's something that, is really inspiring, and what we gravitate towards is that authentic, family, well-rounded, person is using that, platform to share those values. So,
Well, yeah. See, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That was one of the big things. I was so nervous about doing a reality TV show, and I was so afraid that so much of my life was going to be given up and that I was going to risk it all. But I made a promise to myself, and as a family, we made a promise together that we were going to be who we really are.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't going to add on anything different. We were just going, if it didn't feel right, then it wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
And if it made us happy, then we would grow from it. And if we were not happy, then that was the cue that we needed to change things up or not do that anymore. I mean, it's simple, real simple strategy, right? You would think that, people would just follow that.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
It's just a simple, basic feeling. And so the same goes for my social media. And oftentimes I see in young people, they want to do something different, but they're trying to emulate. It's one thing to try and emulate someone, but try to change yourself and be someone else. You got to find your own niche.
Yes.
And you got to be who you are. Like, I watch cooking shows all the time, and I watch these great chefs and cooks and all that. And there's things that I relate to them about. There's things that I admire them, but I have to be me,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to do it the way I would do it. And I can't, of course you're going to learn and try to perfect your craft. And that's always, because you know what, being a student for life is who I am. But at the same time, you don't lose sight of who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that being authentic and passionate and being your true self, that's what really feels good.
So
Totally.
true.
And yeah, and whenever you get that negative feeling, sometimes that negativity from others, I was listening to you earlier, push you through to finding your real purpose. If you have naysayers, no, you shouldn't do that, or that's going to be your test. Those are the bumps along the road that are testing you if you really want this or not.
Mm-hmm.
If they could persuade you or dissuade you from doing what you really want to do, then maybe it really wasn't your passion.
That's so
true. Your passion defines your purpose, right?
Exactly.
Right, exactly. So did you have a person in your life who made you realize that your path was about to take a different turn and, that you should pursue something else? Or was it really just, yourself and internal?
It was myself that I had the feeling, but then it was my husband that pushed me and said, you're going to do this. And you know what? I'm backing you 100%. The way I had a very, very, very successful career as a hairdresser before. It was in a local town, the town I grew up in, but I was very successful. I had a great following. I had a great clientele list, and I gave it all up to raise my family.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no regrets at all with that, because I just feel like that was my time. Sure, there were times of boredom. There were times where I felt like, can I speak to another adult today? That would be really nice. Or when my husband, is this what life is about? Is the day in, day out, cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids, shuttling off to school, all that. But I can't ever, I don't know if I could have done it any other way. I'm sure if I had to, I could have. And I sympathize, and I give women that are working moms and raising a family so much credit, because it's heart-wrenching, like, to leave your children, to have to leave them to go to work. But then at the same time, that's also fulfilling you at a different professional level, which I think there's a balance. So I did that. I let all that go. That personal, professional life that I really was enjoying, to raise my family and my husband, and let him do what he needed to do outside of the house, as far as provide for us,
Yeah, and I will say, when
Yes.
there was a part in Housewives, and it just reminded me of this as you were talking, where I think it was Christmas. I don't know why I remember this specifically, but it was Christmas, and your kid surprised you with a laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys were all crying and whatever, because it was touching, but it was in that moment that really solidified what you're talking about right now, is like when you have the support of family, and
Right.
other people believe in you just as much as you feel you need to believe in yourself, is when things are in the right place and you can go for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really think that that's so important. For me, it was to go out to the workforce after being home for 15 years, I almost felt like I didn't know how to speak to people, and I didn't know the proper language to use in the professional world, because so many things had changed in that 15-year time. Of course, I knew how to speak to my children. I knew, I kept up on my reading and all that stuff, but it wasn't the same. It all had to do with confidence. That's really where it came down to. I mean, I didn't forget how to speak, obviously, but it came from confidence. It came from the lack of interacting with people and all that. And so I needed to be able to do that more. And with that, you make some mistakes along the way, but then I started to gain my confidence. But at the end of the day, I knew that if it didn't work out, I had my family, and that was never going to change. And then if it did work out, how great was I going to feel that I was always going to be wondering, had I not tried,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's where I think it's so important to try, like you were saying earlier. And if you mess up and you make a mistake, well, instead of using that as, be down on yourself and be negative about it, think about the situation and what you learned from it, and how do you approach and go forward from this everything is learning lesson. Everything is learning lesson,
Totally. That's interesting. So, in other words, when you found yourself in a mental place of should, if that's ever gotten in the way of you being both happy and professionally, in other words, how did you do that? Or how did you navigate through that, I should, and that tug?
Well, you know what? My mother taught me something very basic, and I'm sure we've all used this in problem solving growing up, and we've all been taught this. But she said to me one time, make a list of pros and cons,
Mm-hmm.
and then make a list of why you should do it and why you shouldn't do it, and balance it out. And visualize it. You have to sometimes put things down on paper and balance it out that way, and if something feels wrong while you're having that should or shouldn't do, how do we correct it? Or how do we get out of it? Have an exit strategy, or have a plan to fall back on if it doesn't work. So I think that's being a Libra too. I think that plays a big part in it. I'm always balancing out the pros and cons, and I'm always balancing out my feelings my feelings over my desires, my logical over my desires. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Interesting.
I had a professor in college who always used to say, when it's right, it's easy. And,
Exactly.
you know it, you feel it. And
Exactly.
if it doesn't seem easy, then it's not right.
And if you don't feel good doing it, then it's not right.
Right.
And that's when I knew that it was time for me to leave the show.
Right. Good.
Because it just got too much and it didn't feel good anymore. And I knew, and there's a lot of different information out there about how I left and all that stuff. It was becoming increasingly difficult to be as real as I wanted to be. And I always promised myself that I wouldn't do anything that wasn't real or true to myself. And then they were going in a different direction, and they said, you know what, Kath, we don't think that you fit into this direction. And then when I found out the direction, I was like, you know what, thank you very much. I appreciate that heads up. And it did not, it was not in the direction that my life, what I had planned for my life.
Right. It could be right
desired for my life.
It could be right for right now, but it doesn't have to be right forever.
Forever, exactly.
So it opened up doors too. When one door closes, another one opens. So it just goes to show you,
Absolutely. And I think a big part of that was because I stayed true to myself. There were things that I was prompted to do that didn't feel right, and I didn't do them. And maybe had I done them, maybe I would have been more sensationalized, or maybe I would have been more popular for the moment. But that wasn't who I was, and that's not who I envisioned my children seeing and looking up to, and an example that I wanted to put forth. And I think that resonated with so many people, and it allowed me to continue my professional life in really the things that I was passionate about.
Well, and exactly that. I mean, yeah, you can say that, maybe you would be, as you said, more sensationalized. Maybe, but, I think there's an authentic, and I said this before, there's an authentic part of you that we all gravitate towards. And so I rather somebody be authentic and us gravitate towards that with, you know what I mean? And
right.
Be on a show for only a couple years than being on for so long and it not being authentic. And so we gravitate towards your authenticness. That's a word.
Right. And yeah, thank you so much. That's so nice. And it's kind of like, do I want to be known for having a talent, a skill, for doing good in the world, or do I want to be known for being what's the word I'm looking for? Like, do I want to be infamous?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not what I want. I want to know that I could do something positive in the world and help people and change people's lives and put good out in the world, whether it could be teaching someone how to make marinara sauce, whether it could be teaching how to make a chocolate chip cookie, whether it be teaching someone how to relate to your children when difficult situations arise. That's what I want to be doing.
Right. And I just posted something for Rocks of Unity the other day that said, just share your story. You never know who you're inspiring. And the way I ended it was, life is all about leaving a legacy, but all you have to do is make it kind.
Exactly.
Right, when it's authentic to you. So, as a mom and as a wife and as a business professional, how do you manage it all and still find time for yourself? Because you are so busy, so how do you do it all?
Yes, give us the secrets to the sauce.
Yeah, right, no pun intended.
I don't know. It's just, I think, I'm very, very lucky that I have a great husband and a great partner, and we communicate and respect each other so much. And I think that we laugh a lot, and that makes life easy. And I think it's about prioritizing things. So for me, no matter what, I don't make a lot of plans in advance, which is terrible. I'm not a big planner unless it's a trip or a vacation, and a lot of times they aren't that planned that far in advance. But my big thing is that if my kids need me for anything, I'll be known to drop and stop at a drop of a hat. And they know that they're a priority in my life. And so I try my best to make that happen at all times, and I know when I'm doing too much, I know when I'm doing too much. If I'm stressed, I know that I need to scale it back. And, it's all about prioritizing everything, I think,
Yes, completely.
My hardest part is finding time for me. So learning how to put me on the schedule. That's a big challenge for me because I will drop everything and go for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actively, I started, I'm not big on resolutions, but I started in early December because I figured if I get a jump on it, then it'll take me through the new year. 2020 is going to be a year that I pencil more time in for my own health and my own self-care.
Good. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you.
And you need that extra time to yourself so you can recharge your batteries, so to speak. So there's something to be said that I think especially women, we tend to,
Yeah, for sure.
give a lot of ourselves without
Absolutely.
turning inward,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. We're such caregivers.
So Kathy, what advice personally and professionally do you want others to know about your platform?
Well, I think as women, we're constantly changing and evolving. Like men change and evolve and they grow and they learn and all that too. But I think as women, we take on so many different roles in our lives. We have our parents, we're a daughter and a sister or a sibling or something like that. And that's like for me, my father was a strong presence in my life. And so, and Karyn, you tapped into that big time when we had our reading, boy. I mean, it just made my day knowing that he's with me. I mean, I know he's with me all the time, but with our reading, like you just solidified that, confirmed that he is with me smiling all the time.
But I forgot to ask him for a secret sauce recipe. We both have Italian grandparents, Alexa and I, but neither one of us cook. Just thought I'd share that.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because you mentioned the sauce, and something's happening this week.
Oh, no wonder why.
Sauce.
I kept feeling you had something going.
I can't wait to share it.
I kept feeling something about the secret. Your father actually was telling me about the sauce. The sauce, I think, is just, a paisano thing, but clearly he was trying to say that there's something going on.
I think he was trying to tell me that because an opportunity came to me about a sauce, and it was a little difficult to try and organize it and plan it, but it's happening because I pursued it because you told me the sauce. Dad keeps talking about the sauce.
No wonder why I keep saying.
I'm gonna make this happen.
Kathy, that's amazing.
And I totally forget when I talk to people about the readings because I kept hearing the sauce. It's clearly your dad again. But
That's amazing.
Congrats on that.
Yeah. So I think for me, I was a daughter, and my dad was a big presence, and I was kind of identified as his daughter. And then I got married, and I was Richie's wife. I had a small time, and if you look at the big picture in your life of my professional life before I met my husband, was only a few years. So I had a little time in my 20s to try and figure out who I was. I met my husband at 24, and so I was still trying to figure it out. And then I changed and became a wife, and then I changed and became a mother. And then it was like, okay, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I have a lot of talents, I have a lot of gifts. What do I do with myself? And so we're constantly evolving and changing. And I think that, again, staying true to yourself, doing and don't be afraid to move on to that next chapter and say, you know what? Yeah, I was a hairdresser. I loved doing it. I'll always have that craft. I'll always have that skill. But you know what? It's time for me to change it up and go on to my next chapter and explore where that's going to take me and take some risks, especially if you have a backup plan. And it seems like all at once, when you open that doors to the idea of new possibilities, Paulo Coelho, I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, but he's an author, and he's wrote one of my favorite books, and it's called The Alchemist. And he says that when you want something bad enough in life, and the universe aspires to make it happen if it's pure at heart.
So
and
true.
I truly believe that. And so all at once, all these opportunities will come at you, and you will have to pick and choose which one is right for you. And I did that. And I think the hardest, and I get choked up every time I think about this, the hardest thing that I've had to deal with was knowing and realizing that these human beings that I raised don't need me as much. They need me, but they don't need me as much as they did. And so where does that put me in life? You know, I still have so much to give. I still have so much to teach. I have so much to offer into this universe. So how do I make how do I use those gifts to help others? How do I use those gifts to help me? How do I use those gifts to just inspire others to take that next step? And so that's what I've tried to do.
I will say you're being very successful at that. So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for joining both Karyn and me in studio. We both find your story so inspiring, while it reinforces the importance of letting life guide you instead of you guiding life. That does it for us. Yeah, we'll be back next week with more inspiring interviews as we unite, empower, and inspire while changing the connotation of what it means to be normal. Make sure you subscribe and download the Medium Mindfulness Podcast. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.